My name's Seamus. I'm an alcoholic, and I'm glad to be here. Happy Wednesday. So I come up from San Diego because I think Mike heard me talk about a number of years ago about how much difficulty I had getting the AA program and getting recovery and I couldn't get it. And of course, why I couldn't get a lot of it was that I thought I already knew it. So I sat in groups, going, yeah, I know, yeah, I know, yeah, I know. And obviously I didn't, because I was in another drying out place waiting for my laundry to come back. And but my approach always was, yeah, I know. So if you've been, and there's usually, sad to say, a high percentage of people who have been in a number of treatment centers. And I would say for those who have never been in one before, the good news is you don't ever have to relapse. For those who have had to relapse or have relapsed, maybe there was something you didn't get before. And that's one of the reasons I ask you to bring your big book. Do you all have your big books with you? Okay. I want you to have your big book with you because you're not going to get AA by osmosis. You're not going to get AA by listening at AA meetings, which is one of the great fallacies. We think we go to AA meetings and we're going to hear about AA. No, you hear about the problem the guy had with his wife, you hear about this and that and the other thing, and you hear a lot of stuff that isn't even true. And I remember being puzzled by this, and I asked my sponsor, Father Joe, who had about 20 years sober at that time, and I said, you know what I heard at a meeting? And he said, you'll hear all kinds of things at meetings because the rooms of AA are full of sick people. And so that's why I say, bring your big book here, and I want you, when you leave here and you make a little speech, how much you got out of treatment, that you're really determined this time and you think you've got it, and all of the things we say, I want you to really know it this time. And when you hear somebody say something that isn't true, that you'll know it isn't true. So anyway, what I would like to start with is the stuff I had some real problem with, is I sat in treatment centers and listened to people talk about powerless over alcohol, and I went, yeah, I know. But I'm not like you. I'm different. I'm not like you. And then eventually, after I got kicked in the rear end enough, I finally had to admit, yes, I'm on the first page of any book that has ever been written about an addict. I am not different from you. And what you have to do, I have to do. And that's a real big leap for us. So the first thing that I had real problems with was this, what they talk about in the big book, I am powerless over alcohol and drugs. I am powerless. And yeah, I know, that's why I'm here. Yeah, I know, that's why I'm here. But you see, powerless is a complex thing. And sometimes we try to be simplistic about it. The first part of powerless, which is sort of the common or garden thing that everybody has known for thousands of years is I am powerless over alcohol and drugs after I take the first drink. Drink or drug. Okay. So after. Aristotle's grandmother knew this. I'm not kidding you. Think about it. Everybody for thousands of years has known that after, if you're an addict or an alcoholic and you've been on the wagon, you've been clean for a period of time, and then you take one, you're off the wagon, right? So Aristotle's old grandmother, when she saw the old man sitting down along the seafront with his little glass of ouzo, she knew what? That he was off again, right? And she knew what to expect, right? That he was going to come home roaring drunk, he was going to this, he was going to that, he was going to the other. I mean, this is such, but you'll hear people in AA meetings pontificate about that this is what AA discovered in 1935, when AA was founded. Now, if you believe that that was not discovered till 1935, as a guy told me when I was talking about this, he said, you should find a chapter of Morons Anonymous. Because it takes some real moronic thinking to imagine that it had never dawned on a human being in the thousands of years that after you'd been on the wagon and you took one, you were off the wagon. And you were back to your old pattern. This is not new stuff. This is not AA. And if you look at the big book, if you open your big books around about page 23, have you read that? They've been talking about what happens to the alcoholic physically after the first drink, right? Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, so the doctor has been talking about this, and then you come to the paragraph that begins at I think the top of this. You see, these observations, would somebody care to read that for me?
I'll do it.
Okay.
These observations would be academic and pointless if our friend never took the first drink, thereby setting the terrible cycle in motion. Therefore, the main wisdom of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body.
Right. And an awful lot of people who have big books lined with all sorts of underlining and highlighting and everything else do not have that underlined. Am I right? Okay. So if you are still of the opinion that you were fine until you took that first one, then you're in denial. Because you always take the first one. If you've been we're talking about being clean and sober for a period of time. You've been clean and sober for a period of time and you take the first drink or drug, you always take the first drink or drug.
No, you can't.
Sober. You are always sober when you take the first drink or drug. So, that is done sober. Get it? That's why we call this insanity. This is not drunkenness. This is not intoxication. This is the insanity of the sober addict alcoholic. And this is what this book is all about. It is about the insanity of the sober alcoholic addict. And if you look at page 24, you notice anything about page 24? Huh?
The whole paragraph in italics.
It's in italics. I wonder why. Why is it in italics? Well, yeah. The guy told me that the reason it was in italics was because they couldn't arrange to put it in neon. It is so important that not to stand up leaving treatment and not know this almost guarantees another detox. And what does it say? Would you read the italics?
Sure. The fact is that most alcoholics, for reasons yet obscure, have lost the power of choice in drink. Our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. We are unable at certain times to bring into our consciousness with sufficient force the memory of the suffering and humiliation of even a week or a month ago. We are without defense against the first drink.
Right. We are unable, sober for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. We are unable at certain times to remember with sufficient force what it will do to us. Now, if you try, you tell me that, you say, oh, I don't know, I just picked up, I used, I drank, and you tell me that, and you know what I'll say? I can see how that would happen. And you know why I can say that? Because I'm insane too. Because I'm an alcoholic, right? I can see how your thinking mind could forget. But try telling that to some sane family member who's gone through your antics, who's borne the expense, who's suffered the disappointment and the hurt, and say, I just forgot. I didn't think. And their only conclusion is, you must be out of your mind. You must be insane. That sober, you could not remember or think or put things into proportion as to what this would do. And this is what we're up against, guys. We can sit in treatment centers and we really leave very often not a bit accepting that we are insane sober. We really don't. We go, maybe they're insane, but I'm not insane. I don't feel insane, you see? But then when we're insane, we don't feel insane. You see what I'm saying? So when we are trying to judge what is insanity, guess what we're using as the standard of sanity? Me. I read a whole book on psychopathology, and the people that I was studying with said, man, this book is really scary. It is describing some bizarre mental aberrations. And I said, when does that start? I'm more than halfway through it. when do they start describing the insanity? Because I was using myself as the standard for sanity, and they were describing me. So this is why we can sit in treatment center after treatment center after treatment center, and we're going, yeah, well, they may be insane, but I'm not. And they'd say, and this insanity will happen to you when you're sober, and they'll go, that won't happen to me when I'm sober. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. And that's what's so hard. This is where denial comes in. We really believe that by sincerity, because you see, so many problems we've had can be solved by determination and sincerity, right? So this time, and we tell our families, right? We tell the people, we say, this time I'm really sincere. This time I'm really determined. Let me be crude for a minute. This is a disease. If one were to have diarrhea, and someone who does not have it is talking to them, and they say, I don't get all this running all the time. I look at it, go once a day, and then I say to myself the rest of the time, I've had enough. And you're so guilty and embarrassed about running, you say, this time I'm sincere. I am determined not to go again. How well does that work on disease? Huh? No, doesn't at all. No. So that's why I'm trying to tell you, so many of us are back in fidget farms like this because we have underestimated the problem. Totally. We've underestimated it. Let me get to the second. The second part then is the insanity, the powerlessness before the first drink or drug. So this is the one here that people leave treatment centers every day not getting this, that they are walking around clean and sober for months or years, and something goes on, and they pick up. And the underestimating of this, by the way, if you look at, there's a phrase you'll see a lot, or hear quoted a lot in AA meetings, rightly so, and it's on page 45, and it says, a lack of power, that was our dilemma. That's what powerless is. We want to recover, but we don't have the power. We don't have the power. And the way I sort of explain it sometimes is, many of us have this kind of a picture in our mind that my drinking and drug use is sort of like this here. It's going in this direction, and I just will stop this and I will go in this direction. It's a matter of me making up my mind, being sincere, and being determined. Totally underestimating the problem. Because what we are completely ignoring is that the vast majority of the problem is in the unconscious. And